Welcome to Sean's Thoughts. You're here with Sean, me. How are you doing this evening? I trust that wherever, whomever you are, you're doing well. It's always an interesting thing that no matter how I feel, if I step back into the now, if I make that conscious choice to just remember that right now I'm safe or secure, like in that moment, then that's what all that really matters. It's almost a exercise I've been trying every time that I start to perhaps even think negative thoughts about the future, recognizing that in this moment of now, I am safe. I am exactly where I'm needing to be. And that's here with you. And essentially highlighting this amazing book. I talked about it in a previous video that I republished. And it explains, or does a really good job of explaining actually, those voices in our head that they essentially get us to do what they would want us to do, and that it's not necessarily our voice inside our head which is speaking to us. So this is a fantastic book if you're looking to, or at least how I went through my journey into realizing and being able to use my discernment to recognize that those voices weren't in fact mine, that they were external to me, not as a way that I could, give excuse to their existence, but more so the realization and the awareness that they were there. And then with that awareness, regardless of I could physically see, because as I've mentioned before, I started as part of my healing journey recognizing and hearing those voices even during quarrels that I'd have. I would suddenly stop myself after I've said something and question myself, why did you just say that? And it allowed me to learn how to apologize quicker, because I realized it wasn't me who had said that. And if it wasn't me who had said that, then whatever resulted next wouldn't have actually happened. And so anyways, this book did a phenomenal job it was a great experience. So I definitely recommend it. And anyways, so what I put in as what I was going to talk about was getting rid of things. This is, I guess I'm feeling called to sort of tell a story of my own journey or own process through this detaching from the older world that we're essentially working on leaving, as all of the disclosure and people start more quickly realizing things have been happening for a long time that many people in the world were talking about. There's going to be a lot more people seeking perhaps answers and learning. So I don't know, where am I going with that, but it has to do essentially with the idea of moving forward. In order to move forward, we have to let go. And one of the things that we've accumulated a lot of are things. We've got so many things, or at least I had so many things. See, I fell into this program of having to buy and having to replace and having to have replacements ready at the need, whether it's batteries or all this other stuff. So I bought a lot of things that I didn't necessarily need. I definitely, in a more closed community, or not closed community, but within a more of a community structure, I definitely could have borrowed a lot of the things that I needed if I had known neighbors beyond an arm's reach. I don't know, in the place I live, I know only a few neighbors in my own building and not in all the surrounding buildings. I know a couple people, but not so much. But anyways, we all feel that we have to have our own, and they made it cheap enough for us to afford to have our own, basically to quickly give them back the money for all these cheap goods that they gave us. And so we bought a lot of them. And I think the only time I ever used a storage unit was when I was in the process of moving. But I've heard of people getting storage units to store more of their stuff. And one of the things that I'd experienced over the last 3 years is letting go of that stuff. There was a day where I just started, going through all of the stuff that I had and just deciding, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. And I essentially just gave it all away. I didn't bother trying to sell it. I just wanted to detach from it. And I've come to understand that a lot of the things that we hold on to, we assign energy to it. So if you can imagine trapped energy in your field, well, those things that we hold on to, even the mementos, the pictures of the past, the goods and the not goods, or whatever word you would like to use, but all the stuff that we held on to, that I was holding on to, pictures of when I was a completely different person. And so in a sense, that picture anchors me in that past moment. And when we look at that picture, we're essentially bringing up mixed emotions a lot of times, and obviously fun times and such. But I realized a lot of the stuff that I was holding on to really didn't have a purpose, with the exception to hold down the energy that it had. If you imagine that you being a whole light bulb, that there's a certain amount of energy that you'll hold on to. And so the more things we have, more of that energy is being utilized in order to hold on to it. And yeah, you can even look at it from like a data processing or an energy consumption to run a program to hold on to all of those things. It's a deficit. So I ended up giving away so much of it. Things that held memory, things that didn't held memory, things that were useless, things that were useful, perhaps to somebody else. I actually had a few situations where I secretly gave away things to perhaps the homeless by packing it up really, really, really nicely. And it was a sleeping bag and some other stuff, because I knew that there was a lot of people going through the dumpsters at that time. So yeah, I figured out a way to rid myself of that energy, that the energy trauma, or what I was holding on to, and then I freed up a lot of that energy in order to be able to work on other things when it came to the healing part. And yeah, so I think that our things, a lot of the things that we have, that especially we aren't using them, letting them go. And the interesting thing that when I was doing this, I had noticed that because I was delivering a lot of my stuff to Value Village, that there were so many other people sending so many things there. Value Villages seem to be overstocked, at least here in my city, with the amount of things people were donating day after day after day. And so I feel that letting go of things is definitely part of the whole process. It's not putting so much ownership or power or energy behind things that, in a sense, are perhaps not even coming with us when we look at to where we're going, if we wanted to look at a future thing. So letting go of those things is kind of like cutting the tie to an anchor that's holding us into that state or that time or that emotion or that feeling. And yet our whole goal would be, for at least how I see New Earth being, is moving into a new state of being, of living, of expressing ourselves. And so we're not necessarily going to have those things behind us. Not that we won't have things, but I mean that we won't be tied by all of these latest things and abundance of so many different things. If we need a car, we'll have one car. We won't need multiple, because it's more about perhaps not the things as opposed to where the thing takes you. The experiences that we'll be able to all explore when we're free to be the beings that we're meant to be. So yeah, getting rid of things means a lot more. And it also means getting rid of those traumas, working on those issues that are unresolved wherever they're from, whether it's this experience of this lifetime or perhaps even another lifetime, but working on letting those things go. I often said that TFT for me was a great way to let those things go, those traumas, those energies that I didn't even really have to know what a lot of them were, but it definitely changed the way I feel. But see, even letting things go or getting rid of things would even be kind of like transmutating the energy that, how do I explain this? So one of the videos that I was watching, it was talking about how getting out and grounding was super important, especially if you were holding on to all this recent incoming frequencies. And that by getting out onto the grass, we were be able to let that go, let that energy that we had received and let that essentially go through us and ground us with earth. And I was actually doing that last night, and it was really cathartic is the word that pops to my head, but I really enjoyed the ground, although the ground was really, really frozen cold, yet I could definitely feel the grounding of that energy. So that was another example, and perhaps the final one for letting things go, letting the energy that we no longer need, even reducing my iTunes music library, all that digital space, deleting all of those photos and videos and stuff that really didn't matter, and holding on to the ones that did, but not keeping the thousands of photos that I had and the hundreds of thousands of songs I had and multiple this and multiple that, letting those things go. And I can't even say that I had a lot when it came to that, but like we're wanting to, essentially we're programmed by that whole idea of collect them all. I think there's a lot of us that have a lot of those things that we collected that, if we had the opportunity to truly know what the world holds, that we wouldn't have bought a lot of those things. But then again, we wouldn't have stayed so much stuck in that routine. And that routine is where the Matrix essentially wanted to keep us. It wanted to keep us on that hamster wheel. So therefore it limits our ability to see more of the world. So letting it go. Really good, really good story and experience for me to think about all the little different things that I let go, all the stuff that really didn't matter, and that I recognized every one of us, each day that we move forward, we are new people, that our experiences that we have, they enrich who we are, and they thus change. And I think that a lot of people hold on to the memory of who someone was, and they assume that that person's the same person, and that they would react to that person as if there was a issue there. But yet we've all changed, and we're all constantly changing. Yeah. Anyways, have a wonderful evening. I'm going to leave this here. I would love to have a day on a beach just to sit here and read this book. Actually, if I could imagine things, I'd imagine doing like a group or getting together with a group of people and reading and discussing this fantastic book on a beach the whole entire day from sun up to sundown. That would be an awesome thing to arrange. I can't wait till we can have the experiences without the concern of logistics and cost and the financial stuff of how we can all get to one certain place. But perhaps when we do have our ability of bilocation, maybe things will be a lot more different. You think? Yeah, I do. So thank you so much for sharing your attention with me this evening. And definitely I encourage you to watch my most few recent Do No Thing videos. I really feel that like they're getting, well, they always are perfect in however I plan them, but I'm getting to actually appreciate them far more. Like the more time I spend watching them and creating them, I'm seeing so much more beauty in them. So they're not just meditative things. They're kind of like, I imagine them possibly one day being like a poster size screens and maybe some sort of experience. Maybe as I don't know if I recorded or not, but when I talked about the idea I have for a club that serves water and promotes telepathy, to possibly have screens that showcase some of these videos, because it's really interesting when you see things from a different perspective. Like upcoming, I know now that I'm starting to use the drone, I want to see the world from a bird's eye perspective, the tops of trees and things like that. So be on the lookout for that. And yeah, keep reading. And I hope that you have a wonderful, beautiful night, as I know I will. And it's a beautiful weekend. And yeah, keep loving, and so much gratitude for every shred of attention that is shared with me. Much love. Good night.